Hi friends, welcome to my channel, Mariposa Homeschool. In today's video, we're going to do something a little different and I'm going to give you guys my testimony. If you are interested, please stay tuned. Okay, so just to give you guys a little bit of background on myself, um, before we get started with the testimony, I was born to a Mexican mom and a black dad, so I'm mixed. I have four siblings, so three sisters, myself, I'm the middle child, and a little brother. So I have two older sisters, me in the middle, a younger sister, and a younger brother. So I'm right in the middle. We lived in like a predominantly white neighborhood in Ohio, like northeast Ohio. And I think at the time, like when my family first moved there, I was in second grade, first or second grade, and we were like one of like maybe four black families that lived in the entire town. So at the time, that was not that many black families or mixed families in that area. We were one of the first there. I had absolutely great parents. Um, my parents were human, so they had demons of their own, but they were great parents. I had a normal childhood. My parents were together for my whole life except for when I was older. So I'll talk about that later. But they were together when I was a child. The first memories I have of God or church or religion at all are actually with my grandma, my maternal grandmother, so my mom's mom. She was Mexican, 100% Mexican, and she was Catholic. And I would spend weekends with her. And on weekends, we would go to her church. It was a Catholic church. And, as a child, I remember, in a Catholic church, I'm not sure if all Catholic churches are this way, but you have to say things at a certain time and stand up at a certain time and sit down at a certain time and get on your knees and pray at a certain time. And I just remember feeling like so out of place because I didn't know what to do. We didn't go that often. My parents didn't go to Catholic church, only my grandma, so I didn't know what to do. Only on the weekends once in a while when I was with my grandma. But it was okay with me because I got to eat pastelillos after. It was a Mexican Catholic church, and the little Mexican ladies would sell pastelillos in the kitchen after church. So we would always eat pastelillos after church. So that was, I would always love going to church with my grandma because of that. So I would just go and have fun with her. Um, my dad would read us passages out of the King James Bible, and I remember, him reading to us, and he would say, "Okay, now do you know what that means?" And me and my siblings would look at each other like, "No, of course we don't know what that means. We don't talk like that." So he would then, explain to us or translate what it meant, what he read. So that was our first experiences with reading the Bible. We never were encouraged to read the Bible ourselves, and we never did. We didn't have Bibles of our own. They were just our parents' Bibles, and we were never encouraged to read the Bible, and we never did. My parents did take us to non denominational churches once in a while. My dad would be, how, how could I say it? Like, my dad would be the one to try to encourage us as a family to go to church, and there was a non denominational church in our area growing up. So he did try to encourage us to go. So we would go once in a while, not often, but it was kind of like few and far between when we would go. I felt uncomfortable at church when we went. I could never really put my finger on it as a child, but I kind of have my suspicions as to why I was not really comfortable in church. You know, in hindsight, I think I know why, but I'm not, I'm just going to keep it to myself for now. Um, so fast forward to when I was around high school years. I was in a very toxic and unhealthy relationship for pretty much almost all of my high school years. Um, it was toxic from both ends. It was very unhealthy. Um, Again, hindsight looking back, like people tell you, that's probably not the healthiest way to go about doing so and so, and you don't really listen when you're a kid. You think that you know everything, and um, you don't listen to older people's advice, and especially when older people or parents are telling you not to be with someone, um, you're not going to listen. So that's what I did. I didn't listen, and I was in a very toxic, unhealthy relationship all throughout my high school years and a little bit even into after high school. Um, that led me to attempt to take my own life. Thankfully, that attempt didn't work, as you can see. Um, but I just, I was in a very dark place, um, as one would be, to do something like that. I had very little self worth. I was sad all of the time. I just remember feeling completely helpless and thinking that there was absolutely no way out, and thinking, like, if I continued feeling the way that I was feeling, then I didn't want to live anymore. So I attempted to take my own life. It didn't work, but I ended up having to have several surgeries after, and a lengthy hospital stay. I'll just say that. Not long after that, my parents did end up getting a divorce. Well, technically, my parents were always divorced, like most of my life. They just never split up, they stayed together. But this time, like, they actually split up, like they divorced, they left, they split. um and this is right after, or right around the time I was graduating high school, and I acted out in every single way that you could think of. My parents didn't get a divorce or split because of my suicide attempt. There were issues and things going on with them, that all of us children knew about, but it just simultaneously, it just all kind of happened all at once. Um, Now that I'm older, I will say that that's probably the best thing that happened for them. But as a child, you never want to see your parents split up. That's hard for any child, whether you're a young child, a grown child, a teenager. It's never easy to see your parents split up. At the time, I was 17 when I graduated high school. My mom was moving out of the city, so she was moving 2 hours away. My dad was moving just up the street from where we were moved our, my childhood home, but I didn't want to move with either of them. So I ended up getting a place of my own, which was a extremely terrible idea to move out at 17. Not my brightest idea, but that's what I did. I was acting out, so I was, taking drugs pretty much every single one you could think of, except for I didn't shoot anything up my arms or shoot anything. I can say that. But pretty much every other drug you can think of, I took. And I did it pretty often. I also was drinking pretty heavily. I was working, but I, went to work hungover, and to I would barely even go to work. Like I kept my job, but I was like barely keeping my job. Like I would barely go to work. Um, and then, I was paying my bills, but I was barely paying my bills. Like I was barely paying my rent. Um, what else? Let me see. My priority at the time was partying. So drinking, drugs, going to raves. I was going to raves. I was going to clubs, blacking out. There were times that I would wake up with no shoes on, don't know where I'm at, don't know how I ended up here. Um, I was doing stupid things like driving completely like inebriated from other states, just stupid stuff. Like now that I look back on it, like how did I'm just a miracle that I even made it. Like seriously, seriously, just a miracle that I even made it. Um, so obviously I wasn't living a very safe lifestyle, and I was going to other colleges, partying at other colleges, and um, not being safe about where I was going or who I was going with, and that led to me being assaulted. I'll just say that. Um, and that was very hard for me to deal with because I felt ashamed, and it's something that I don't talk about, and it's something that I've felt guilt over for a long time. I felt like, you know, I deserved it because, well, look what you were doing, dummy. Look how you were acting. Um, Obviously, now that I'm older, I think very differently. But when I was younger, that's how I felt. I would absolutely, tell my younger self, talk to my younger self a lot differently than I talked to myself then. But like you said, you mature, you get older. Um, so I will fast forward my life a little bit to, I want to say, I can't remember what year this was. I can't remember what year this was. But I got involved with a guy I know I shouldn't have gotten involved with. And it was um, a situation where we were dating, and, he eventually moved into my place. And I had um, found out that he got arrested while I was at work. And I was like, whoa, that kind of sucks, like and I got caught kind of thing. And that's kind of the attitude I had around it. That's how selfish I was. I didn't even care. And, a couple days went by, and day 3 goes by, and I'm started thinking, wow, I haven't had my period in 5 days. And I took a pregnancy test, and it was positive. So I found out that I'm pregnant. Um, and my boyfriend at the time just got arrested. Um, but my mom and my sister and my siblings, all of my siblings, helped me a ton, raise my son. His dad is not in the picture, but that part of the story is not mine to tell. So I have to leave it at that. During that time, I had very little self worth or none at all. I was still very suicidal and depressed. The only reason I did not attempt another suicide attempt was for my son. In the early years, I will say, I did feel completely alone. I was filled with so much rage and so much anger. And a lot of that time, as I got older, I realized that it was time to do some soul searching. It was time for me to figure out who I was. It was time for me to start focusing on my child and myself. And that's what I did. Um, and, I started bettering myself. I started I wanted to better my life for my son. I always say that my son saved my life. And I know that he did. Because if I continued down that path that I was going down before I got pregnant, I know that I wouldn't be here today. I know it 100%. With the wild way that I was living, the amount of toxic stuff that I was putting into my body, um, there's no way I would be alive today. So my son saved my life, and he's my angel. That's why I named him Gabriel. And during that time, I was focusing on myself, getting myself together. I would try to read the Bible. The only Bibles I had were from my parents. So those King James Bibles that I had that I couldn't understand, I read them, but I couldn't understand them. So I kind of got frustrating to me. I did find a non-denominational church in my area. I felt judgment. I felt very judged for being a unwedded single mother, taking my son to church with me. So I went for a little while, and then eventually I stopped going to that church. I did talk to God a lot during that time. I was just very confused and very angry with him, frankly. I just didn't know why. I was just had so much anger in me, and I didn't know why. So after my husband and I got married, we did end up going to church a little bit more. Um, we never really prayed together. We never read the Bible together, anything like that. It was actually during the pandemic that I was curious about a church in my area. I drove past it quite a few times, and um, it just kind of popped into my head one day. And I said, you know, I've driven past this church quite a few times. I'm going to check it out and see what it's about. So I looked it up online and saw that they had services through their services through YouTube. And I was actually pretty blown away. I was really impressed by what the pastor had to say. And I was, I loved the worship. And so I continued to stick with that church all through the pandemic. As soon as I was able to, I started to attend services in person. It was very limited at first. We had to register because, there would only be able to put so many people in a row because you had to be, spread apart due to COVID still. But I would register, went to service, and the first service that I went to was actually a baptism service. And I looked around. I noticed that um, first, when you go to this church, my church, they welcome you differently when you're new. When you're new, like, they welcome you differently, and I was blown away by that. Um, Also, it was a baptism service the first day that I attended in person. And again, there weren't that many people in service because there could only be a certain many people in service in church, in the building at a time. And there were people getting baptized, and I cried so hard the entire service. I don't know why. It just, all the emotion, all the anger. I'm gonna get emotional. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. All that emotion that I had, it just came out of me, and I just felt, I just felt the Holy Spirit in that moment, and I just, that's why it's taken me so long to record this video. But I I walked into that church, guys, and I never left. I've never left. I have been so in love with my church, with our my church family, with what it has taught me. Um, I Our church is so beautifully diverse, and not just with where people come from and the color of their skin, but people's ages. There are so many older, wise people there that, oh, I just absolutely love talking to them. And like, you just feel the wisdom oozing out of them. I just love talking to those people. And then there's new believers. There are people who don't know Jesus at all and don't know anything about being a Christian, and they're just walking into this for the first time. There are people who have grown up in church who go to my church, um, who, they've grown from the time they were born until now, that this isn't new to them. Um, so it is so diverse, and that is one thing that really has that really drew me in as well, is the diversity. It's extremely welcoming, and that finding a good church is what made me want to have such a good relationship with God and with Jesus. I'm like, what are these people so happy about? Like, what am I missing here? Like I was curious. I'm like, why they know something that I don't and I want to know it. So that's kind of what drew me in the first place. I wanted to know what these people knew. Um, and that's why I kept going back. And it was July of 2020 blank. I forgot what year it was. That's so awful. But everything after the pandemic is just like life. My husband and I both publicly decided to go public with our faith and give our lives to the Lord. And we got baptized in our church. And I will put pictures here. And it is honestly the best thing that I hate getting emotional. I hate it. Um, it is the best thing that we could have ever done for it is truly the best thing we could have ever done for our marriage, for our family, for us as parents, to be able to show this to our children. Um, and just me as an individual person. Oh, that was hard to get through, guys. It was really hard. It took me a really long time to share my testimony. I wanted to do this a lot sooner, and I wanted to share this video a lot sooner, but I hate getting emotional. But every time I talk about or I start thinking about God's love for me, I start to cry. And it's because I truly do not feel worthy. Okay. So I'm sharing my testimony um, for a couple of reasons. Not just because I wanted to, because I thought it was a good idea, because I thought that people would like to hear it. I wanted to share my testimony because if any part of my story sounds like your story, or it sounds like how you feel or how you felt, if you feel that loneliness or you feel sad or angry or you have no self-worth or any of those feelings that I described to you, or you have been through very traumatic situations similar to mine, and you don't know Jesus, um, maybe it's time to give him a chance. You really truly don't have anything to lose. If you start going down this path of um, discovery to Jesus and you find that it's not for you, then fine, that's okay. You have nothing to lose. But you've tried it your way and it's not working. Let's give his way a try because he truly knows us better than we know ourselves. If you stick around my channel, I hope that you stick around my channel because helping new believers is what I feel like I was truly called to do. Which brings me to my second reason why I'm sharing my testimony. After I got saved, I wondered, now what? What do I do now? I decided to give my life to the Lord. Okay, so now what? So I am going to have a series on my channel of videos I post on Thursday. So I post 2 videos a week, one on Monday, one on Thursday. My Thursday video is going to be my now what video. It's going to help walk you through what you do after you give your life to the Lord, your next steps. I was there, I was in your shoes. And like many of you, I struggled as a new believer. This is the step that I struggled with the most. Most people struggle with getting to the decision to giving their life to Jesus. And I very easily made that decision on that day that I stepped into that church. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I let it all go, all of my anger and all of my sadness and all the bad decisions that I made and all of my resentment for myself and all of my shame. I let that go. I very easily decided that I wanted to follow God. And after I did, I felt like I struggled the most. And if that is you, I want to be able to help you get through that. That is what this next series of videos will be about. Please, if you found this video encouraging or helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share if you think it could be of help to someone else or a friend. Leave me a comment down below if you would like to share your testimony. I would love to hear it. Please don't be shy. This is a safe space. There's absolutely no judgment here. And subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so, or if you are interested in watching a now what videos. And I look forward to seeing you all in my next video really soon. Bye.